So welcome everyone, of course, welcome to this new feature showcase. This is number 8. As always, the session is recorded and will be shared with you. Today, we will show you how to make the most of our keyword search engine that has multiple facets and use case. If you have any question, you can use the question sections. Let's start with the agenda. So, a quick overview of the subject we will care about today. Our focus is mainly on ways to improve how the search engine operates, and I should switch my phone off. Sorry then. So how the search engine operates, we'll take a quick look at the differences between the keyword-based search and the semantic search. After that, we'll walk through the key Taruqa principles, Taruqa being our proprietary search engine, you know that already, and its most valuable capabilities. We'll touch on vocabularies, taxonomies, and thesaurus. And we'll also explore how to get the most value out of the metadata that you use. Finally, we'll see how Taruqa can be used with or without keywords to build a list of replies. We'll take all questions at the end because it's quite challenging for me to follow them during the presentation. Let's begin. Next page. So, what we are seeing in the data from our documentation portal, our own documentation portal, is pretty striking. When someone lands on the homepage and starts a session, they end up using the search bar about once every 2 visits, and even more telling, around 40 of all the pages people read come straight from a search result page. So monitoring and improving the search engine is not only justified, it's essential. Now, the good news is that the search can play an even bigger role across the site, thanks to something that we call the search block. We have already talked about the search block in a previous feature showcase, but in a few words, it's a flexible component that you can use with the designer. You can add to reader page, custom and home page to build interactive search experience complete with tailored layout and results. That means that you can create all kinds of search-driven pages and interactive lists without extra complexity on any page on your portal. A few examples, very fast. Custom page that automatically displays the last versions of product X documentation can be managed with a simple search block on a kind of custom page. Building guided navigation to help users step through the content can be done with a search block too, even on the home page with the tiles and so on, plus the guided navigation. In short, the search block opens the door to a wide range of possibilities, giving you the freedom to create search experience that really match your user needs. If you want to dig deeper into the search block, the 6 feature showcase is clearly dedicated to search block. And if you have any question, feel free to contact the CSM. We will be happy to help you in using the search block. Second item of the introduction, Taruqa versus the semantic search. So before diving deeper, it's important to clarify today's session is dedicated only and specifically to the keyword-based search engine. Fluid Topics has 2 approaches to find answers, the traditional keyword search and the conversational search experience like you have with a GPT-style system, which is the chatbot that you can use on, for example, our own documentation portal. Fluidi on the top left of the homepage. For this presentation, I'll focus exclusively on the keyword search powered by our in-house technology, which is called Taruqa. If you'd like to explore how Taruqa compares with semantic search, you can check out the latest page of our website, the screenshot that you see right now. And I will add the URL at the end of the webinar on the one of the last page of the webinar, and you will get the PowerPoint, of course, at the end of the webinar. So you will be able to see the URL of this page. Next one, a few words about the Taruqa main advantages, how it works, how you can take the most of the tools. A few words about relevance first, the keywords, the search operators, and the search business rules. We are searching for information, not words. Just a word about Taruqa, how it works. The TF, IDF ranking schemes, which you can find in Lucene, Solar, Elasticsearch, and many search engines that will be included in other softwares. Care about word density. Taruqa goes far beyond and integrates any kind or any type of metadata in the ranking model, which means that we can apply consistent model to textual terms, numbers, quantities, that, and more. That means that our search engine can analyze document freshness, for instance, from the more fresh to the last fresh, but include distances as well, and all these kind of things. And what is most important, certainly, is that all these things can be done dynamically, which means on the fly. That does not imply to reprocess the content, reindex the content. Next one, about the relevance. More precisely, the way we see the relevance in Fluid Topics search engine is that we have invested a lot of time and energy during several years. The customer that use Fluid Topics for a long time, more than 5 years, for instance, have seen the switch from the previous search engine and Taruqa, and most of them have been part of the switch and of the settings. So we have spent a lot of time in adjusting the settings to get a kind of proven performance that we can see day after day in your search engine. We make our best to ensure the quality over time so that you don't have to care about the way your search engine works. You can keep a lot of peace of mind because that's clearly not your work to care about that. We think it is our own work. And for that, we are happy to get any feedback because it helps us to identify cases that are new so that we can apply continuous improvement. And most of us know that I really care about this kind of things on a day-by-day basis. Fluid Topics is optimized for precise keyword search, making it the fastest way to find information when you know exactly what you need. It's a product code, it's a model, it's a technical term. In this case, the search engine is clearly the most efficient way to access any kind of content. One important point with Taruqa is that we use what I call the Google-like operator. Sorry, some keywords might be overlooked. Taruqa can ignore a part of the query if you have a query with several keywords, 3, 4, 5, and Taruqa thinks that the most relevant reply does not include one of the keywords. It's not a problem on our end. Taruqa is able to overlook part of the keywords. Another interesting point is that Taruqa supports Google-like operators to make the search query more precise. For example, the example that you have on the screen is a query on our own portal with the query optimize search. The first query with optimize search like this written in the search bar will bring almost 700 results. Of course, the first ones are the most relevant, but you have almost 700 results. You can use the quote to search for an exact expression, which will be, in this case, optimize the search. In this specific case, you'll get only 19 results. And you can as well use minus to exclude some keyword from the query. So, for example, search optimize minus search will only give you 8 results, which are the results in which you have the word optimize and you exclude the one that have search in the content. Optimize alone will bring 38 results that includes, for some of them, optimize and search, the difference, almost 20 results. So that's something that users don't usually know, and users usually don't know. I think it's always interesting to specify somewhere as an help to use the search engine that these operators are available to have more precise query if your end users are searching among a huge quantity of documentation. That can be very useful. Let's dig now into the search business rules. So to make the search result more relevant to a role or specific documentation or specific use cases that are linked to your documentation, especially your work, and so on, you can use the search business rules. The search business rules are defined in the admin screen, where you will be able to promote or demote some results. It's not based on the keyword that the end user is searching, but the idea is to be able to say, I want to promote, for example, the most recent results. I want to promote the results that are coming from this specific source. I want to lower in my results the PDF. I don't want to display PDF on the top of the list, even if they are relevant. I estimate that I prefer to put a highlight on the structured content. In this case, it will be possible to make this kind of adjustment in the way Taruqa creates the search page by adjusting the results one compared to the other. That's clearly what we do with the search business rules. So it's metadata driven. It's a fine-tuned scoring based on the relevance. So that means that the results will always be relevant, but among two results that are more or less, that have more or less the same relevance, it's possible to promote or demote part of them. And these rules, when they are created by the admin for all the users will apply automatically for all the users. What you see in the screen here is the two sections in the search business rule definition screen. The first part, which is the higher one, is the metadata value influence. This one will allow to define rules that are based on one specific metadata value. For example, FT is book to promote the book more than the topic when both have the same relevance. Lower the relevance of PDF will be based on another metadata, which can be MIME type. MIME type is PDF, then demote, or unstructured document more than structured, an author, a source. And in this case, you define always what is the metadata you want to use and what is the value that you want to promote or to demote. All the metadata that you can find in the view all metadata screen can be used here. The second section, the lowest one, will be used to use not specific value of a metadata, but will be based on a series of metadata values. So you will have to work on sequential attributes. And then, for example, you can use dates, publication date, edition date, versions, ascending, descending, and so on. Any kind of metadata that will have this kind of characteristic will be useful in this section. That's it for the search business rules. If you have more questions, of course, at the end of the feature showcase, we will be able to talk about that. A few words about the vocabularies now. Keyword search engine is based on matching keywords in the query and in the content. Some of the users may use other words, abbreviations, acronyms, that do not exist in the content. And it can be end users, but it can be tech writers as well. So the idea of vocabulary is clearly something that is shared among both the end users and the tech writers. For example, a user who submits a search query containing API keyword expects certainly to find documentation about a web service. So this is an example of synonym that should be used. As a result, you'll want to use the vocabulary to match these expressions to the existing content so that the end user will find the right result when they are searching for different terms. That's the first use case of the vocabularies. An example here with an example in the CSV file. So a vocabulary is a text file, which is a flat file. You will be able to create several ways for a vocabulary, a CSV file with lines, like what you see on the screen, access rules, access control, access rights, gate content, all these expressions, as well as SEO, natural referencing, optimized search engine optimization. All these lines are considered in the index as equal. When you search access control, you can find access route and so on. CSV file. A vocabulary can be a SCOS file as well. Just as an information, the CSV and the SCOS will be soon visible directly in the admin, which is not the case currently. You can upload and download the vocabularies. It's not possible to view them, It will be possible very soon, and it will be possible to edit them directly in the administration interface during, let's say, next quarter, maybe the second quarter, but it's something that is clearly planned in the roadmap. We can care about two types of vocabularies in free topics, what we call synonyms and what we call taxonomies. The synonym is the idea to create what you see in the screen and what will have this impact. You search for natural referencing and you will find contents that talks about SEO optimization. That's what we have seen in the previous page here. SEO, natural referencing. That's for us the same case. The second use case is the one that we see just after here. It's the enrich and clean use case. The enrich and clean use case is the idea here is to modify metadata available in the content because in many cases, history, it might be complex to manage controlled metadata because you have changes in marketing that has a different classification of the product. These kind of things. Metadata may need to be enriched and clean. In this case, you will be able to use taxonomy and the enrich and clean rule to create, clean, organize any kind of metadata that you have in your content. The illustration that you find here is just an illustration that we can use this small taxonomy to say, to create a new metadata which will display latest. And this new metadata is created by an enrich and clean rule that says if, it's not exactly if, but if the value of a version, for instance, is 5.2, then the new metadata, which we'll call fluid topics version, will have the value latest. And in this case, it's possible to display it directly, use it as a default value selected for the search engine, and so on. So here, it's clearly enrich and clean. We have existing metadata that we want to transform, and on the other hand, we have the metadata that has been transformed and that is more user-friendly, more compliant with what the marketing has decided, and so on. The use case are very numerous. The power of metadata, in fact, the enrich and clean use case is the perfect switch between vocabulary and metadata. Metadata in free topics is something that is really central when you want to organize, when you want to interact with the content. Now, different way to use the metadata to improve findability. We always think about search. We'll talk about indexation, temporal context, search filtering, navigation, and linking. The metadata can be directly indexed to be searchable or not. We'll see examples. Dates metadata can help to identify content temporality, edition date, publication date, validity date, and so on, depending on clearly your use case. Metadata are used to filter search results, and add metadata allow to access content in many ways with deep link, which is certainly one of the simplest way to access content from outside fluid topics. I see that I have forgotten one thing. Metadata will use as well to define access rules. So that's another use case in which metadata are clearly powerful. The first word here is the ability to index or not a metadata. index the metadata, which is what you define here in metadata configuration in the KHub screen, is the ability to find what is in as values in this metadata in the index to make a content that contains this metadata findable with a keyword search. So that's clearly useful when you have references in this metadata, document identifier, classification, author, any information that could be searched is clearly interesting. Moreover, if this information is only available in this metadata, in this field. From time to time, it can be available in a field. It can be available inside the content as well. In this case, it's not mandatory to index the metadata. One word, anyway, it must be used with caution because the weaker the relative value of each piece of metadata in the search scoring, which means that the more metadata you add to the index, the weaker each metadata value will be among the other metadata when searching for this document. So if you want the metadata to be to have a big weight in the relevance scoring, just use the metadata that are clearly mandatory in your use case. Don't select all the metadata. It's clearly not a good idea. As a second part of this metadata indexation, the more metadata you index, the longest a reprocess will be, because a reprocess will care about the metadata as well. So the content and the metadata as well. So the more metadata you add, the longest the reprocess is. If your whole reprocess takes a few minutes, no issue. If it takes few hours, it can have an impact. That's for indexation of the metadata. The second column that you see in the same screen is set as date. Set as date allows to define any metadata that is not typed inside Fluid Topics by default as a date. The impact here is that you will be able to use a date picker, for instance, periods, starting time, ending time, and so on. So for a validity, for example, it can be very interesting to have new dates. If you search for something that is only valid since 1 month, that's the kind of thing you will be able to do with dates. Clearly, that's not possible to manipulate this metadata if it's not a date. So this point is very important if you have questions about timing, validity, and using temporality in your search. That's the example I wanted to show here. Keep in mind that we have, by default, two different dates, the publication date, FT last publication, and FT last edition. You can add any metadata as a date using this specificity to set as date in the KHub admin. Another metadata usage here, how to use filters to browse the content and access it easily without typing anything. It remains a search, but it's a search without keyword. I will show you 3 examples. For instance, this one, it's 3 examples that are used on our customers. This example is the homepage of an industrial machines builder, which is called Liber Mining. When you search for a document here, you have to select the machine model first, and then Fluid Topics will propose you other ways of filtering the content. So that's a way that is really easy because in few clicks you access any kind of content. I have a second example here on AMD. This is the home page in which you can access all the content that is available for any kind of AMD product, processors, accelerator, and so on. This is as well based on filters. If you want to access Ryzen desktop documentation, you will have a filter about Ryzen desktop documentation. That's the same for all the items that you see in the tiles here. The third example that you see here is based on one customer as well. In this case, you will have brands that apply a filter on the brand and display a search page. And just below the brand, you see a product line as well, which is more a filter that is based on what kind of product you want to talk about, without having to select a brand first. So these three examples show you that it's clearly possible to use the search filters to filter the results without using keywords. I go back into Liber just to show you how it can happen. So on Liber Mining, the first question that you have to ask yourself is, what is the machine I want to care about? I will select, if I remember well, the mining excavator. Yes, I have selected mining excavator. So I see that machine model is selected. And now inside the machine excavators, I have all the models that are available. I will select one of these models. So I just click on the button. I have selected this one, and now Free Topics tells me, okay, with this machine, I have several types of documents that I can select. It's the same kind of interface. I will select the button. I don't remember which one. Service manual. And now I have service manual for this machine in the mining excavators, and I can browse the subsystems that I want to care about because it's a service manual, and I will select the electric system, and now I can directly access to the service manual for this machine about the electrical system. So you see that without using just one keyword, I have made 1, 2, 3, 4 clicks, and I can access directly to my document. Just to let you know, there are more than 8,000 documents on this portal. And here I have accessed my document in 4 clicks. That's clearly something that is very efficient if you have a lot of documents. Filter search result, of course, if you have made a search query with keywords and you have now a search page. On this search page is very often you can have filters that are proposed mostly on the left column, but now with the search designer, you can put the filters where you want. It can be above the results on the left. The look and feel of the filters can be very various. You can almost do what you want. And then you will have the ability to use tree filters, flat filters, date pickers, like the last update on the left, and so on. My last word in this section was about deep links. Deep link is a way to access any kind of content that is based on a URL that will be not necessarily the URL that is displayed in your browser, which is very often a pretty URL, but it's possible to use any kind of combination of metadata to identify precisely any kind of content, map, topic, and so on. When you are outside free topics, the most, I would say, evident illustration for this is when you use free topics to feed an in-application help. You have a question mark on your software, and when you click on the question mark, you want to display an help specific for this screen, for example. In this case, what is clearly done, it's that the screen has an identifier. In free topics, the topic you want to display has the same identifier, and when you will click on the question mark, you will make an API call to get the content that has the same identifier as the screen that you are displaying, with another metadata, for example, for the version of the software. And that's all what you need to create a link that will remain always available because you have used the right metadata, and that is always easy to use inside the coding application, because it can use variables that you already know inside the external application. So for example, what you see in the screen, portal URL plus access, metadata key, and the metadata value. For example, doc.freetopics.com access FT origin ID is a free topics API reference guide. In this case, you will access to the free topics reference guide. We have used here the FT title. That's not the only examples. I even prefer using IDs because it's even more usable in this kind of use case. Yeah, a few words if you want to create lists based on filters or based on keywords plus filter. In this slide, I show you examples that are built using search results. So, for example, these ones. In this case, the list, which is above version 15, is a list of results. You find the same thing among above version 14, 13, and 12, of course. These pages are linked from the home page, and for example, in a mail to target a specific set of documents, both are built on search result list filtered by metadata. On the left, the content about the version 15. On the right, the documents that are linked to one specific SOC, which is Vivado Design Suite. So these two pages are based on metadata filtered without keyword. This page here is based on one specific keyword, which is markdown, and its URL can be shared as well. It's a list of content that is based on a keyword. In both cases, it's possible to have a very precise attention to the sort order of the list. If you have keywords, the sort order is the one that is defined in the Relevance tab here in admin, portal, search page, and the tab is called Relevance. That's where you define the search business rules. When you use keywords, search business rule will apply. When you don't use keyword, when you create a list that is only based on filters, it's slightly different because you used what is defined in the sort tab. This tab is new. It appears for 3 or 4 weeks now, maybe less. It was something that was accessible just below in the search page, but in custom settings or something like that. I don't remember exactly. But the idea here was to have an access to what we call the sort criteria, which is what you see with the second flash. I don't remember the word, but here, what you can see here, sort criteria. When you don't use any keyword, you see that relevance is the first sort criteria in a list. That is this one. I don't know if of course, if I click here, I don't know if I can show you exactly what I want to show you. Sort criteria is what you see here. It's a list of criteria that will be applied one after the other. When you don't use any keyword in your query, so when you just filter results without any keyword, we will use these sort criteria, starting by relevance. And when there is no keyword in the query, we have decided that the relevance for each result is the same. That means that the criteria that is just after relevance will be the first one to order the results of your query. Then it's very easy to create a specific metadata or to use an existing metadata to order specifically what you want to display first in the list. If you want, for example, in the previous page here, to see this page, which is the new one on the right side, on the AMD portal, this page, which is a new one, you see the little tag new, is defined to be the first one when we display this kind of page without any keyword. It's decided that if metadata is new, is true, then this page will be displayed, this content will be displayed first, and the rest will be displayed after. It's not a search business rules, it's a little bit different because it's based on metadata value as well, but it's now more than just adjusting the relevance. Here, the relevance of all these documents is the same, and we use the metadata value to set, I want to see this first, and then the other documents will be displayed using another criteria. It can be another criteria, of course, but the first one that applies is this document new? Yes, then it applies. It appears first in the list. So that's important because if you want to create things like these ones on the right, version 15, first show application guide, then quick reference guide, then user guide. In this case, it's possible to use the name and sort by alphabetical order ascending. But you could as well use any other kind of metadata. We have customers that create a specific metadata for the books that is called priority. The value are among 0 and 5, and it represents the priority when you create a list. If you want to display one kind of document first, then you will be able to use this metadata to achieve this kind of task. And I see that I'm at the end of the document, and I have already used 50 minutes. So I've added here a lot of links to the documentation. which you can use with more details about everything that I have talked about during this session. You will find the semantic versus keyword search article on the blog article on the website as well. You have the URL of the other feature showcase that are available on YouTube, and so on. I think I'm done. Do you have any question? Now, I don't know how to stop these things. If there are just one word, it's a chance. We have today Deborah Kirchner with us. Deborah is the search product owner, and she will be able to answer, to help me at least, to answer your questions. So, are there questions, and where are they? Yes, there are. So, how is AMD adding a new tag on a search result? Can you explain this? Making this appear, and what needs to happen in the content to support that? In this specific case, just to make the tag appear, if I remember well, it's just made for the tag. I think that it's there are two possibilities. The first one is to create a metadata that compares the FT last publication to the current date. Yes. And the other possibility is to reprocess the content with a taxonomy that will use the version of the document to create a new metadata, which is, let's say, is new. And depending on the version of the document, the is new is applied or not. That's almost the same kind of process that we have on our antidote documentation when we have still available the old FT versions. The examples I've shown with version 5.2 and the latest. That's the idea. You have the version of a document which links to latest, and if the version is the one that you have defined, then you create a metadata that is latest. We have other customers that do it only with JavaScript and CSS. You compare the current date with the last edition date, and depending on the last edition and the rule you have defined, you apply or not a specific CSS. That's what I have in mind. In any case, so there are many ways to reply to this. Oh God, there are new questions. Maybe I have not started in the right order. So let me start by the question from the beginning. Hi Guillaume, yes, it's recorded. Could you tell me the difference between the custom component? Sorry, I discovered a new GoToMeeting interface. Are there plans to provide? No, that's not the right question. Where is it? Good. This one. Could you tell me the difference between the custom component in search versus basic component section? I think I would like to have more details about the question. Deborah, if you have any idea. On my end,
Yes, I think I don't know really good the custom component section, but the basics component section is they are the components which are ready to use in the product, and I'm not sure we're talking about the same thing, but the custom component section is some components you can create and then add in your pages.
maybe
In
if
any pages, I think, not specifically in search pages.
not sure about the question, not sure about the answer.
No.
So I would say if you need more details, feel free to ask again, and maybe directly with a ticket or something like that. The in-book search field shows results only when it finds an exact word rather than partial match or fuzzy search, which limits flexibility compared to global search options. Do these new search enhancements resolve this concern? I will say out of the box, no. The in-book search field maybe lacks one thing, which is the suggest while typing, which is certainly what is the most useful to have a kind of partial match, because that's what happens with the suggest. So I would say no suggest in the search in doc, but why not? What could be interesting, Viplavi, if you can, it would be to create a ticket and explain what is the difficulty you have when you use the search in doc, because that's a component that is certainly interesting to improve, but we don't have a lot of customers that are complaining about this component, so I don't know if we will be able to propose you something in a short term, but why not? Please create tickets and explain me your use case in such a ticket. I thought I read in the documentation that you recommend against refining such business rules. Can you discuss more on the risk and use case where you would recommend to use or avoid using? Complex question, I would say. What you read in the documentation is certainly that it is not efficient to create a lot of rules, because they will all have a certain tendency to work one among the others. So the most common use case that you can address with a search business rule is something that you can explain with 2, 3, 4 different rules, for example. And it will certainly be more easy to have, let's say, thought about a specific use case more than generic point of view. So if you have a specific use case, it's Teres Jacob was asking this question. I would really be happy to think about this use case with you, but it will really depend on what are the metadata, what is the expectation, and what are the clearly specificities in this use case. The search business rules may not be the best way to solve any kind of issue, but it's already possible with this kind of rules to demote a part of the content that you don't want to expose a lot. It's possible to promote the latest versions of the content. It's possible to promote a type of content more than another. This kind of use case are really easy to manage with the search business rules. And because they apply for all the users, it's important not to search to, I would say, to correct a very specific case. For this query, I don't find this document first, even if I think it's the best. That's not a search business rule that will help us, certainly, to solve this precise use case. Search business rules will more apply on a generic view on the portal for all of the queries and all of the documents. So for this specific question, Teres, I would really prefer to discuss on the specific use case. Eman, are there plans to provide some basic user-friendly interface for searching like Google-like operator? Since they already exist, I would say, why not an advanced search, but maybe more just a little modal that can open and say, don't forget that you can use the quotes, you can use the plus, you can use the minus, and so on. Because the operator exists, in most cases, your end user are able to use them inside the search bar. So I would say, for simplicity, it's more easy to work this way. What we create an advanced search with different fields for the and, or, not, and so on is, according to me, not that necessary because we search exactly the same way. But why not? That's not very complex to create using JavaScript, for instance, a kind of formulaire, a form in which you will add the operator on your query. So it's possible. You can create this kind of things quite easily with a JS. So custom component can be used in this case in a search block. That could be a very good use case for the search block. You have a specific page that opens with this. Once again, Eman, if you want to dig deeper, we can discuss. Next question, Teres. Are there any risk to using the same vocabulary file for synonym as well as hierarchy? There are risks, definitely. So that's why I prefer, in many cases, to use one specific not that not that certain as well. It depends. It depends. If the taxonomy you want to use for hierarchy can handle the synonyms, for example, with a SCOS format, that can be interesting to have both in the same, because it will be more easy to manage if you have an external tool. If you don't have any external tool to manage them, you will have to work on CSV file, and I really don't like CSV file for manipulating hierarchies, but that's more my point of view than something that is a kind of a golden rule or something like that. The more the file is complex, the more it is risky to use it for many use cases. But if the hierarchy is used only for enrich and clean, and not for indexation. In this case, it's more interesting to make the difference between a taxonomy that will be used only for Enrich and clean, and a vocabulary that will be used only in the indexation to create synonyms on the search page. So more than a definitive reply, I would say it will depend on the use case. But vocabulary, hierarchy, if they are used only to create a hierarchy in the metadata, should not be indexed, so should not contain any kind of synonyms, except if you have several values that you want to assign the same node value, I would say. If not, keep it simple. Use a flat file and index it to create synonyms. Where am I? This one is okay. Can we exclude? Can we exclude some content from indexing? We have some content that should not appear in search. We will provide direct links to required customers. This question from Shivaram, Thermo Fisher. Yes. Yes, definitely, it's possible. It will not really be exclude, but it will not be visible. So that's possible. There are at least two different ways to do that. We have a specific metadata that can be used for that, which is
Publish status, I think.
publish status.
Publish
Exactly.
status, yes.
Exactly. You'll find the documentation on the portal. Publish status. Yes, FT publish status is the metadata that can be used. And more than that, we can use as well any kind of metadata on which you would filter to hide this content from the search result and from the publication itself, like publish status. But if you have already one specific metadata that you want to use for that, it's possible as well. The difference between publish status is that the metadata will have to be defined on our end, so you need to create a support ticket to filter the content that contains this metadata. It will remain accessible. So we have exactly the solution for this issue, Shivaram. Even more, several solutions. Where am I? Nelson, can I index a metadata and its synonym? If you index the metadata and this metadata as a synonym defined in a vocabulary, yes, it will be indexed and it will be findable using the synonym. Findable as a keyword, which is not the same than findable using a filter. The filter will not be activable by the synonym or the original metadata. That's only with keywords. I hope it replies to your question, Nelson. Jen, is a deep link similar to context-sensitive help? Yes, that's clearly context-sensitive help will certainly use deep links to access the content. That's exactly the use case. That's not the only use case for deep link, but that's a use case. Next one. Nelson, Jen, Christopher Bradley, the new tag, it's already answered. I see Kiss. Kiss, just want to say thank you. You're welcome, Kiss. Always a pleasure to answer you. Kiss, where are you? Fabio Di Francesco. We've been using vocabularies and taxo for a long time, and they work well to help influence search. Can we import knowledge graph to further improve search? If not now, will this be available in the future? That's a question for Deborah, but that's a little bit of a future. I would say, Deborah, do you want to answer about knowledge graph?
I'm not really sure about what
No,
we talk
I
about
will
the
answer.
knowledge graph, but
In this case, a knowledge graph is a way of defining an ontology. It will definitely be used in the semantic search. So not short-term solution, but just to give you an illustration, Fabio, we will, in the coming quarter, be able to identify facet value to set filters in the chatbot. The idea is on our end to use a knowledge graph to build the most relevant reply depending on what is in the knowledge graph. And the knowledge graph is certainly the best way to drive the chatbot among knowledge. So that will work in the future. That's clearly not possible now. And we hope to be able to work on this subject during next year. But definitely, according to us, a knowledge graph is certainly one of the best solutions to provide the right information through a chatbot. So the answer is yes, in the future. Marcin Rogos, is there a possibility to filter out common words like pronouns from the query? These mess with the results. By default, no. By default, Taruqa uses any keyword in the query, but the internal algorithm in Taruqa make them like empty words. So they have no impact on the relevance. If your subject here is relevance. That said, we have some customers asking for a precise list of empty words. I would really like to have details on the use case in which the fact that these words that are more or less considered by Taruqa as empty words, I would have an idea about what are the use cases in which it is a problem for you. So if you can, Marcin, give us more details through a ticket, for example, that would really help me to understand why it's not working as expected on our end, because we have always considered that the language model that is the language model approach that is used with Taruqa should be sufficient for this kind of use case. So yes, that's worth digging, clearly. Matthew Horner, star operator does not work as I would expect. You cannot use them as the start of the word or even within words. Yes, that's a limitation on our end. The star operator is something that is mostly used with database search, and it's clearly not the case in Taruqa. I would say that at the moment, we have no immediate solution to propose, but you're not the first one to ask for improvements here. So it could be something interesting to study on our end. I would really appreciate, Matthew, if you can create an improvement request ticket on the CSM so that I can add it to my list of customers asking without any guarantee that we will do something special. Maybe a dedicated custom component or a more precise study of your use case could help to find a solution. In many cases that we have already had with other customers than you, have been solved because the search for this kind of things was a specific search for a specific metadata, like a product identifier or document identifier, and we have found alternatives to make this kind of query possible. At the moment, definitely, if you are searching for a keyword with a star at the beginning, there is no solution. But the use case is interesting, so we would appreciate to study it with you. Next question. Matthew again. In the weighting, you can promote and demote, but can it be more specific? For example, promote metadata 1 by 3 and metadata 2 by 2. Yes, it's possible. You just add 3 times the same rule for metadata 1 and 2 times the same rule for metadata 2, and you will get this kind of result. That's not explicit in the documentation, but that's the way it works. Matthew, third question. What sort of fuzzy search are applied within words? Example for typing mistake. What other grammar rules are applied? How do these differ between languages? Wow. That's a question.
Yes.
for Deborah.
We have, for example, for typing mistakes, we have a spell checker component in the search engine, which takes into account the typing mistakes. So you can, yes, propose some other results who could match the query. And for the other grammar rules like plurals, verb forms, etc., we have a stemming mechanism, which means that we get the stem of the word, so just the basic form, and it allows to get results which match not only the exact words you search, but also the other stemmed forms. And these mechanisms are quite specific for each languages. So I think the best performance is for English, because that's where we have the most content and information. But we have also some specific processes for some languages. For example, for German, we have some compound splitter to, yes, when you have compound words which are quite common in German, we split them in separate words to handle them better in the search engine.